All right, so we've counted up our genotypes and how frequently they occur in the population. And in fact, let's define those as frequencies here, just so we have the terminology. So this here is the frequency of our big A genotype. This is the frequency of our big A little genotype. And this is the frequency of our little a genotype. And so those are the frequencies of the genotypes. And what we would like to ask is, what is the frequency of each allele? And so let's figure out that then. So we'll leave the genotypes up there, and we'll ask over here, what is the frequency of the big A allele? And to do that, we need to look over here at our genotypes, and we see that the big A allele occurs in this genotype right here. And it occurs in 0.31% of individuals, so it's 0.31. But the big A allele also occurs in these individuals, in the heterozygotes, and it's present at half the frequency. And so in that case, it's 0.5, but we only want half of that, so it's a half times 0.5, and this is equal to 0.56 if you do the math. And now we want to ask, well, what's the frequency of the little a allele? So let's determine that, and we can write that here. And we can see that the little a allele appears in the little a homozygotes, and it occurs with a frequency of 0.19. But it also occurs in the heterozygotes, and it occurs, but only half of the alleles in the heterozygotes are the little a allele, and so we want half times the frequency of the heterozygote again, which is 0.5, and that is now equal to 0.44. And of course, 0.56 plus 0.44 is equal to 1, and so since we only have two alleles, that is as we would expect. And so we can generalize this now to the following formulas. So typically we talk about allele frequencies as being P and Q. And so in this case, typically we talk about the high frequency allele as being P. And as you can see in this formula, the high frequency, the P allele is present at the frequency of the big A genotype plus half the big A, little a heterozygous genotype. By contrast, the Q allele, so we typically use that by convention for the lower frequency allele, is present at the frequency equal to the little a genotype plus half the frequency of the heterozygotes. And as we saw in the example above, P plus Q is equal to 1. And they sum. And this becomes very useful because sometimes we just have one allele frequency. And of course, if we know P, then we know that Q is going to be equal to 1 minus P. And we can immediately compute the Q frequency once we know P.